Hello, I'm Malcolm Cox. This is the first in a new series called Tuesday Teaching Tips. I'll be producing one each week on a Tuesday for the next few weeks. And the idea comes from a number of requests I've had recently, people asking me how to prepare a lesson from the Bible. A sermon, a midweek class, a Bible group, anything like that. And so I'm put together here some tips that come from some from books, some from other people, and some from my own experimentation. Each tip is only a way and not the way to get into a text. And that's important because we need to find our own way, the way that works for us to get inside, to inhabit the text so that we can find its meaning and the meaning for the people that God has privileged us to speak to, the relevance, if you like. And so we will get into a passage. We'll use the same passage each week and look at different aspects of it in different ways to get inside it. This episode is called Printouts and Pencils. What's that all about? Well, have a look. So, pencils and printouts. What's it all about? Well, the first thing I like to do is to print out the passage I'm going to preach from or teach from onto one sheet of A4 like this. I make it the largest font I can to fit onto one page so that I can see the whole thing and get my head around the whole situation that we're preaching about. If you can't fit your whole passage onto one side of A4, it might be worth considering whether you're trying to preach too much material. Anyway, here we have Matthew 8 verses 18 to 27. This is the story of two people that come to him. The one who says, "I will follow you wherever you go." Jesus talks about foxes and birds, and the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. Another disciple comes and asks to go and bury his father, and Jesus says, "Follow me, let the dead bury their own dead." They get into the boat, there's a big storm, Jesus is asleep, they wake him up, he rebukes them for the lack of faith, and then he rebukes the wind and the waves. And the key question at the end, what kind of man is this? Okay, so this is Matthew chapter 8, 18 to 27. And what I like to do before trying to figure out the structure or the meaning or the message is to work out what's actually in there. What's in this passage? So for example, I look for words that are repeated, phrases that are repeated, or things that inhabit or are in this whole passage. Here's one to begin with. Lake, for example. The word lake is there, and the word lake is here later in the passage, about just over halfway through. And so the lake forms the background to everything that's going on here. That's interesting. What else do we have? We have Lord. Lord here and Lord here. The first Lord is perhaps a different Lord from the Lord, first let me go and bury my father, from the Lord save us. That'd be a bit of a different kind of Lord. Maybe that's important. We'll come back to it. What else do we have? Oh yes, we have I will follow you. We have Jesus saying follow me. And then we have the disciples who followed him. So we've got follow 3 times in the passage. And I think this passage is a lot about following and being a disciple. And there's another word. The disciples are here following him. Another disciple said to him there, and the disciples went to wake him up. So disciples are mentioned in those situations. So disciples, following, lordship, the lake in the background. What else do we have? Oh yes, towards the end of the passage, we have winds that he's rebuking, and they notice it. The winds mentioned twice. The waves have been rebuked, and then the waves also, the disciples notice this. We have a parallelism as Jesus, as Matthew records what happened, rebuked the winds and the waves, and the disciples say, even the winds and the waves obey him. That parallelism must be important. The repetition of it surely is drawing out something important. It is the end of this passage, or this section, I should say, and there's an allusion, I think, to Psalm 107, but we'll come to that another time. So winds, waves, repeated. Okay, anything else? Well, I think there is one more significant thing, which is this. We have the boat mentioned here, put a bit more around there, and the boat mentioned here. They get into the boat, the waves swept over the boat. This is all going on in the boat, all these events. But here's the interesting thing. Go back to the beginning of the passage. He sees the crowd. He gives orders to cross to the other side of the lake. So they're there by the side of the lake. In other words, the boat is already there. It's already in view, okay? So we have, though the boat's not mentioned as a word, it's there. In fact, the whole of this section is all connected to the boat. There's, if you like, a gap, isn't it? Or not a gap, a break. You've got, I suppose, this section with the two would-be disciples in some way. We've got, this section is before the boat, before people get in. And this is the in the boat section. So we've got before the boat and in the boat. Is that important? Could be. Might it even be the structure of our lesson? Before the boat and in the boat. Well, we're not going to deal with structure just yet. That's got to come later. We're trying to get into the passage, but I think it's interesting that we have the boat connecting everything here. The lake, in fact, and the boat. And all of this seems to be pointing to this point at the end here, this question. The men are amazed. It's all pointing down here. The crowd, the first teacher of the law, the disciples get into the boat, the storm, and the whole thing seems to come down to this. What kind of man is this? Even the wind and the waves obey him, pointing down here. And I think looking at these words, the lake, the boat, the disciple mentioned 3 times, disciples, Lord, follow, we get the flavor, we get the feel of the passage. It's about discipleship. It's about lordship. That's what this is all about, isn't it? And that's going to help us when we try and figure out the meaning of the passage and the relevance for the people we're going to speak to, and ultimately then the structure. Printouts and pencils. So, what did you think of printouts and pencils? Why not try it this week or the next time you prepare a Bible lesson? Let me know how it goes for you. Please also send me your own ideas, your own tips, things that work for you. Describe them to me and I'd love to share them with everybody that's interested in this important subject. Well, until the next time, I hope you have a tremendous Tuesday and a wonderful week. God bless.